So hello everyone, welcome to this week's history. Today we are covering the Latin American revolutions, which is the fourth lesson in our Atlantic Revolutions units. So what's some background for the revolution? Well, the Latin American revolutions is the final act in the half century of Atlantic revolutions that took place in the Spanish and Portuguese colonies of mainland Latin America. The majority of these areas are Spanish, but the area that is modern Brazil is Portuguese, which is why Brazil speaks Portuguese rather than Spanish. These Latin American revolutions were shaped by preceding events in North America, France, and Haiti, alongside their own distinct societies. As in North America, native-born elites known as Creoles in the Spanish colonies were offended by the Spanish monarchy's efforts during the 18th century to exert greater control over the colonies. Creole intellectuals were familiar with the ideas of popular sovereignty and personal liberty derived from the Enlightenment. Many other factors contributed to the problem. Spanish colonies had long been governed in authoritarian fashion and were sharply divided by class. Furthermore, Native Americans, people of African descent, and mixed race people vastly outnumbered whites. So, onset of the revolution. In 1808, Napoleon invaded Spain and Portugal, deposing the Spanish king Ferdinand VII and forcing the Portuguese royal family into exile in Brazil. With legitimate royal authority in disarray, Latin Americans were forced to take action. The outcome was independence for the various states of Latin America, established almost everywhere by 1826. However, the way independence occurred and the resulting societies differed greatly from the experience of both North America and Haiti.
Right, yeah.
So, the revolution. The revolution in Latin America lasted more than twice as long as it did in North America, partly because Latin American societies were divided by class, race, and region. In South America, the rebel general Simon Bolivar became known as the father of South American independence. His allies include Jose de San Martin in Argentina, Jose Antonio Paez in Venezuela, and Bernardo O'Higgins in Chile. Mexico's struggle was begun by two priests, Miguel Hidalgo Costilla and Jose Maria Morelos, who were executed. This was known as the Hidalgo Morelos Rebellion, which was crushed by an alliance of Creoles and the church. Later, the same alliance of clergy and Creole elites brought Mexico to a more socially controlled independence in 1821, which was completed by one-time loyalist Agustin de Iturbide, who made himself Mexico's emperor. Unlike his neighbors, Brazil achieved independence with little bloodshed. In 1822, after the Portuguese king returned home, his son Pedro declared independence from Portugal. So the aftermath. Despite the grand intentions proclaimed in Latin America, new constitution, leaders were generally more interested in economic booms and personal power than democracy. But dictators and civilian presidents alike favored growth through exports, such as Jamaican and Haitian sugar, Andean minerals, and beef cattle from Argentina and Uruguay. Three major wars altered boundaries in the 1800s. The US idea of manifest destiny and Texans' anger over Mexico's plan to end slavery led to the Mexican-American War in 1846 to 48, after which Mexico lost half of its territory to the US. In the disastrous War of the Triple Alliance, Paraguay lost 15 to 20% of its people, defending against Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay. And if I remember correctly, they lost about 50% of their mouths. A dispute over nitrate export ignited the War of the Pacific, in which Chile defeated Peru and Bolivia. Also, the transatlantic slave trade diminished in the 1800s, Slavery was not outlawed until 1848 on French islands, and not until 1873 in Puerto Rico, 1886 in Cuba, 1888 in Brazil. Plantation owners and large companies were unwilling to pay high wages to freed slaves and other workers, so they trapped some in debt and imported indentured laborers as quasi-slaves from South Asia, China, and Indonesia. So now we are going to talk about Simon Bolivar.
Six nations, Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia, respect Simon Bolivar as the liberator from the rule of Spain. This great statesman, writer, and revolutionary general is known as the George Washington of South America. He inspired men to follow him through trackless wilderness to fight and die for liberty. Bolivar's followers, however, did not support him as loyally in his struggle to set up a stable government. Simon Bolivar was born in Caracas, now in Venezuela, on July 24th, 1783, of a noble Spanish family. Orphaned at a young age, however, he was educated in Europe. He learned the spirit of revolution then widespread in Europe and was determined to free Venezuela. During the South American revolutions, Venezuela was the first to declare its independence. In 1811, although the initial revolt failed, for the next 19 years, Bolivar continued to lead the fight to free northern South America. His small, poorly equipped forces won amazing victories and met overwhelming defeats. At one time, he might be a conquering hero, at another, a fugitive in exile. At the height of his power between 1825 and 1828, he was president or protector of Gran Colombia, now Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, and Ecuador, Peru, and the newly formed Bolivia. The spirit of disunion and opposition, however, was strong. Bitter and broken in health, he died at a friend's estate in Colombia on December 17th, 1830, 7 months after he resigned his offices. Bolivar was a sincere patriot, devoted to the cause of liberty and equality. Years before slavery was officially abolished in Venezuela, Bolivar liberated his own slaves. He also was a pioneer in urging the formation of a Union of American Republics.
Okay, that is the end. Thank you for listening.